With the massive, overwhelmingly successful release of the Spyro the Dragon Reignited Trilogy, many fans have been left wondering what could be next for Spyro. Well, today we're going to take a look at that question. Hey there guys, Portal Master 9351 here, and today we are going to be taking a look at what could potentially be next for Spyro the Dragon. Obviously, his remaster was just released couple weeks ago and has already been seeing pretty good numbers in terms of sales. On the week it came out, it actually topped the charts, and it was competing with some of the biggest releases of the year, including Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee and Fallout 76. Now, while Fallout 76 did turn out to be a hot dumpster fire, surpassing Pokemon Let's Go is actually a pretty big deal. Now, I will add this with a caveat that if you combine the sales of both Let's Go Pikachu and Let's Go Eevee, Spyro did not manage to top them combined, but if you broke them into their two separate components, it's still, it was at the top of the charts. But still, when you're competing with Pokemon and you still manage to pull out number 2, I mean, that's pretty expected. Nothing was ever going to beat the Pokemon sales combined. So Spyro did really, really, really well and continued to sell pretty well throughout the Black Friday weekend and has been seeing pretty good critical success. It's had some interesting takes from classic fans. Some people don't necessarily like everything they did with the art style. Some people don't like some of the small tweaks they made, and there are definitely some issues present in the game, i.e. glitches and bugs. However, for the most part, the game has been pretty well received, and with a franchise as big as Spyro, you have to be wondering, what is Activision gonna do with this next? What is Toys for Bob gonna do with this next? Now, I've already done a video talking about the potentiality of DLC coming to Spyro the Dragon, and I definitely think that we will get some DLC. Check that video out if you'd like to see the full explanation as to why I think that there is such a good chance we will be getting DLC for Spyro. But even with that in mind, what's going to come after the DLC? Even if the DLC shows off Toys for Bob's level design ability for Spyro the Dragon, what does come next? Are we going to get a new Spyro game? Or is Spyro just going to fade back into the background? He was a primary character in the original Skylanders game, of course, but then he faded into the background as later installments went on, and Reignited Trilogy finally threw him back in the spotlight. So the question is, will he stay in the spotlight? So the first thing that I would like to take a look at is actually Crash Bandicoot. And the reason that I would like to talk so much about Crash Bandicoot is because Crash Bandicoot and Spyro have received incredibly similar treatments over the past few years. We already know that the Crash Bandicoot game did insanely well. See what I did there? The Insane Trilogy did insanely. Okay, I'll stop. But anyway, the Insane Trilogy did incredibly well, and as a result, Activision was already stated to have a 5-year plan for the Crash Bandicoot franchise. Now, we don't know what that 5-year plan entails. We know that year 1 entailed releasing the actual remaster, year 2 entailed releasing the remaster on Nintendo Switch and PC. What does year 3 hold? Does it hold a brand new Crash Bandicoot game, or does it hold a Crash Team Racing remaster? Well, that's still up in the air, although all signs are pointing mostly towards a Crash Team Racing remaster. Of course, that's only year 3, so there's still 2 more years after that where we could see an actual brand new Crash Bandicoot game. We don't really know what's going on right now. I would like to say, though, that the Crash Bandicoot remaster did not utilize the full resources of Vicarious Visions. While Vicarious Visions was partly working on the Crash Bandicoot remaster, not the entire team over at Vicarious Visions actually was doing that. And I would imagine the same was true for Spyro the Dragon. And as a matter of fact, I believe it's been confirmed that a very small team actually worked on this Spyro remaster. With that in mind, Toys for Bob is a moderately sized company, meaning that, well, that means not everyone was actually working on the Spyro Reignited Trilogy, implying that they were working on something brand new. Now, the Reignited Trilogy is honestly, in and of itself, although it's 3 games, it's lengthwise about the same as one full modern-day game, with each game taking anywhere from 6 to 7 hours to actually beat it. So with that in mind, it's conceivable that these other people over at Toys for Bob could have been working on a new game already, or potentially getting ready to release Spyro on the Switch, which I also did a video on that. So I think that it's pretty safe to say that the people over at Toys for Bob are probably working on a separate project for Spyro the Dragon. Of course, maybe they could still be developing something related to Skylanders. Maybe they could be possibly developing some other project unrelated to Skylanders or Spyro. But honestly, with them being the size of a company they are, I said they were not a small company, but they're also not a big company. So I honestly don't think they're trying to juggle multiple projects at the same time. So I think it's very likely that whatever is coming next for Spyro is already in development. Now, the question then comes down to what is coming next for Spyro, which is what the point of this video is. There's two main things that it could be. There's two main things. The first one of those is another remaster. There are other Spyro games that could be seeing a remaster. I don't think we're going to see Legend of Spyro get a remaster anytime soon. Maybe someday, but I don't think the world is ready for a Legend of Spyro remaster. I do think that games such as Hero's Tale could actually be getting an actual good re-release of the game. Spyro, A Hero's Tale was a pretty bad game. Pretty much not, debated at all that it is pretty much what killed classic Spyro. So the question is, could they be working on re-releasing that up to modern day standards, or at least playable standards to the point that it could be a good game? I think that that is an option. I think though that a different option is they are actually developing a brand new Spyro game. I think the question is going to come down to two things, and I think that there's going to be two indicators that are actually going to be able to tell us which one of these options TFB is pursuing. The first of these is whatever the new Crash project ends up being. If they end up doing Crash Team Racing over a brand new Crash Bandicoot game in 2019 or 2020 or whatever the next release for Crash Bandicoot is, I think that that is more than likely going to signal what they're going to do for Spyro. I think if they do Crash Team Racing, I think that Spyro is going to get another remaster of one of his later games as the next release for the Spyro franchise. I think though that if they decide to take Crash Bandicoot and actually make a brand new game, I think that it's much more likely that Spyro will be getting an actual new game instead of just another remaster. The second indicator for what this could potentially be is how they handle DLC for Spyro the Dragon. As I discussed in my DLC video, there is no scrapped content that can be reworked and included in the Spyro the Dragon game as DLC. So the question is, how do they manage DLC? If there's no DLC, that doesn't tell us one way or another. If there is DLC and it is in some form of new content, then that I think does signal pretty strongly that they could potentially be working on a new Spyro game, and I would actually say that that is the more likely of the two options. If DLC comes out and it's some scrapped content that we did not previously know about, or it is content from another Spyro game, that tells us differently. That tells us that I think more than likely they are working on another remaster. Now, if it is content from another game, perhaps that debatably could mean that they're not working on another remaster, but honestly, I don't think they would port in an entire game. I think that if it was content from another game, it would be scrapped content from another game and reworked into the original Spyro the Dragon game in the Reignited Trilogy. So I think there's several indicators as to what is going to come next for Spyro. It's pretty hard to tell though, because we don't currently know either of those two things. Those are two big variables that are going to affect what Spyro actually gets come, the future. I think one thing's for certain, I don't think Spyro is going to go gently into that good night. I think that Spyro will continue to be featured in the spotlight, and I think that much like the Crash Bandicoot franchise, Activision more than likely has a similar 5-year plan for Spyro the Dragon to help include him in their future product lineup. I mean, with the cancellation of Skylanders basically having occurred at this point, they're going to want to continue to have more kids franchises, and I think that keeping Spyro and keeping Crash in the limelight is the way to do that. So I don't think we're done with Spyro. I think he's going to get new content, and I personally am really excited to see what that new content is going to be. But here's what I'm curious to know. What do you guys think we could be getting in the future for Spyro-related content? Do you think we're just going to get another remaster? Do you think that we could potentially actually receive a brand new Spyro game? And if you do, when do you think it will be? Do you think maybe 2020 could be the true year that the Dragon returns in all of his glory with a brand new game, or do you think that maybe 2019, maybe you think they're going to rush out another remaster? Tell me what you guys think down in the comments. Anyways though, that is all I have for you guys today. This has been Portal Master 9351. Remember to like, comment, subscribe, and shout out to all my patrons on Patreon, especially the Collector Creepypasta and Portal Power TV. That's all for now. See you guys next time.